Our first guest today on Lowball is Hamilton director Gerry Strain.
Yep.
Gerry, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So, just to kind of quickly get into it, I know it's the busy time of the season for Hamilton. So, what's the kind of pre-season looking like?
It's a great question. As a club, we're going through a transition period just now. There's potential change ownership that's been lingering since, over a year actually. Initially, my involvement with the club came through me trying to buy Hamilton Accies last year.
Right.
And despite raising the capital, there was one or two things that we couldn't pursue the deal on. So the opportunity to become a director presented itself, and that's how I ended up here. I joined the club last July, so pre-season was pretty much well underway, and there was transition last season as well.
Yeah.
But now from the inside, getting back to the question you've asked there, we've been planning ahead since we realised that relegation was potentially on the cards, something we didn't expect to happen, and it's something that hurt quite a bit. So we need to make sure that we get ourselves back in the Championship as quick as we can, and because of that, and because of the transition that's ongoing, you've got parallel lines, so you've got the football side, which I've been given the responsibility for in terms of player recruitment, working with the manager and the potential new owner. And there's also the existing owner of the club who I've got a role of responsibility to and got a lot of respect for. I still need to try and bring in commercial revenues for him, so it's a tough question to answer because it's just a fast moving environment with so many different moving parts.
Yeah.
But the crucial part to everyone else is the football.
Yeah.
You need to get players signed. You need to get players of quality signed, so that you can, promotion straight away. Our objective is to try and win the league. So how do you attract the calibre of player to League One? That was a struggle to attract whilst you're in the Championship. That's a challenge. How do you bring money into a club that's been relegated? When the perception over the last 20 years is we're a Premiership club, and we're now in League One.
Yeah.
So there's a whole host of different moving parts that we just need to try and keep on top of. And to be fair to the guys, kind of fellow directors and the current owner of the club and the prospective new owner of the club, everyone's trying as hard as they can to make sure that we tick every box we can and that the transition happens, and then we hit the ground running for pre-season the 21st of June.
Because I know it was a shock to myself, obviously being local, seeing Hamilton. Now that used to seeing them in the SPL and kicking about the Championship for years as well, to see them get relegated. I know your kind of overall goal when you first came in was top 6 in the SPL. Do you still see that as your goal just now?
Aye.
Where you want to be?
I do. It seems like it's a fairy tale dream. I think I miscalculated where the club were when I first got involved with it. Not from an ambition perspective, but from a realistic commercial perspective, and the relationship with the fans wasn't quite right, and again it was kind of fragmented. But my view of Hamilton, similar to yours, is that they're a Premier League club. And when I then look at Livingston, who have got maybe a slightly better fan base in terms of numbers in terms of attending games, if Livingston can push for that, then the logical part of my rationale says we should be able to push for it as well.
Yeah.
I think Hamilton's a bigger club than Livingston. That's my personal opinion.
I would honestly say so as well.
Aye.
I would put them down as a bigger
And
club.
I think we've got a far bigger heritage, we've got a far bigger, the history we've got for 1874, the history associated with us. We're the only senior club that's derived from an educational establishment. It's the only place that it's happened.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot to talk about. Hamilton as a brand, I think there's 26 Hamiltons across the world. They all originated from here. So
Right.
there's so much to talk about, and I think if we get the marketability right and we promote the club properly, there's nothing to stop us attracting commercial revenue streams that will let us compete in the SPL. So my view and my goal, if you like, would be to have us as a Premier League team, and then once we're in there, push for that top 6 in European spot. And who knows what's around the corner, but that's, if you don't have a goal, it's pointless getting up in the morning.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
The reality of achieving that goal is so far from where we are just now, but that's genuinely my ambition, it's genuinely my desire, and I don't see why we can't achieve it, but it's going to take a lot of time, it's going to take a bit of luck, and it's going to take a lot of patience.
I mean, you do kind of look, I suppose, at the Championship and down. I mean, I would say probably Championship's one of the most competitive divisions in Scotland.
Aye, well, I think I must admit, my first experience of Championship directly for this perspective was last year. I was disappointed in the quality of it. If you're a goal scorer, you're in with a chance of getting promoted.
Yeah.
We just couldn't score goals. The first part of the season was just, it wasn't nice to watch, it wasn't nice to be part of. As a board of directors, I think we should have done more in terms of helping our fans. I think we should have communicated a lot more. We then tried, and then it failed miserably. You know, I was partly responsible for that. And it's just, I think it was like too little, too late almost.
Yeah.
But when you look at the rest of the Championship, we were dead in the water in November, December time. And what I'd asked our fans at the time was, like, I know it's going to be tough, but can you bear with us? Let us get to January and let's go for it. Because I knew in January that Alan Maitland, who's the chairman, would pull something out the bag, you know, and to try and help us survive. When you look at the transition in the club from January to the end of the season, I think if you look at that as if you look at that as a Steven Gerrard, Michael Beale table, right, we were second in the league, or we were third in the league.
Yeah.
Right, but that doesn't keep you safe, right? But the transition and the turnaround in points was really, really significant. The bit that really angers me and hurts me is that we shot ourselves in the foot. We had it in our own hands to stay safe and retain our status in the Championship, and we blew it. And that, I think, you know, I think the fans deserve a huge apology for that.
I suppose the big king was a derby as well.
Yes, aye. That, I mean, I don't think there was any contest, and I'm not being disrespectful to Airdrie. I don't think there was any great contest between Airdrie and us. I thought over the two games we were a better team, but it was almost like it was fated.
Yeah.
In a lot of respects, that we were going to get relegated. You know, like it was bittersweet winning a trophy, last 16 in the Scottish Cup. Any other Championship manager that wins a cup, gets to the last 16, you'd think it's going to have a successful season.
Yeah.
Then we get relegated, right? And it's just it's a right sore one to take. But going back to your question about the Championship, there wasn't much in it when you look at the teams from like 8th to I mean, I think there was 5 different teams promoted in the last night of the season. Queen's Park were promoted at one stage. I think Thistle were promoted because of the
way it was changing.
It changed so much. So if you've got a goal scorer and if you get the right players, then I think it's safe to say that if you hit it with the right strategy for the get-go, that you could plan your way to promotion.
And I think the interesting thing there is when you says your first experience of the Championship and looking at the quality. Now that you have had to drop down to then rebuild, I'm assuming you're not expecting the quality, not of Hamilton, but of oppositions. Have you kind of looked at the quality there and what you're expecting to see?
I don't think you can be disrespectful to the quality of the Championship. I think it's when you're comparing it to, you know, our major league, the Premier League. I think there's a big difference there, but you've also got the economic factors. The SPL clubs have got a lot more money.
Yeah.
But same we said, we put Ross County out of the cup. There was nothing between Ross County and us. They went to penalty kicks and we beat them. Partick Thistle pretty much looked like a better team against Ross County until Ross County hit some form. I'm using them as an example. It's a really, really hard one to define. I just think that a lot of the games last year were devoid of absolute quality. And I mean, we got a doing from Wraith Rovers, I think it was late October, and it was like men v boys, and it was men v boys because we had a lot of kids in the team, but it was a lesson in football, and it hurt. I remember sitting watching, it was only 2 or 3-0, whatever it was, and I remember sitting thinking, wow, this just is not good. And I really felt for fans at that stage, because we never done what we should have done to maintain that communication and bridge that gap, and it almost felt like the disconnect at that point was just massive. Then you look at our games against United, we played them off the park and we get beat.
Aye.
Scored a goal, we didn't get the goal. So many games didn't get penalties. It's bad luck stories, and you know, when I was engaging with fans, I was trying to say, like, we should have at least 14 points more than we've got due to bad decisions. But see, at the end of the day, you're still not good enough.
Aye.
You shouldn't be relying on the decisions.
And that decision can go.
You need to go and win the game and accept that bad decisions are going to happen. You'll still get 3 points. And I think if you can hit that in the Championship, you'll fly. I definitely think you'll fly, but it's just a rugged league. And then dropping to League One, there's some quality in it. You Cove Rangers, who are obviously going to spend money. Falkirk are going to spend money. Queenie South's a great team. Do you know I've got a soft spot for Queenie South because I failed down there. That was one of my many failures. But what a great club and a great team. And Marvin Bartley will do a great job with them. We got them the cup last year. They played a lot of good football. I think squad-wise, they might lose a few players, but Rory Payton and what have you were different class for them. So I don't think you can discount. It's just the quality will still be there, but just in different ways.
Yeah.
You know, it might be the quality in League One might, I don't know, I've not experienced it yet, but it might well be that the players are more aggressive. That's a quality in itself. They might be more, you know, they might be more attacking. That might be a quality. They might be more resilient. I don't know.
And I do kind of agree, because when I've obviously watched a lot of lower league football, I think when you kind of hit the nail on the head and get that goal scorer, you always seem to feel, and I know everybody says, oh well, a goal scorer at any club, but you feel in the lower leagues, in Scotland especially, if you get a guy that just might not have the greatest now, because a lot of them, you find it's either at one end of their career, whereas it's at the beginning or it's the latter end of their career, and you find if you hit that nail on the head of the goal scorers, and that guy that just knows where the net is, you kind of feel like you're onto an absolute...
You're guaranteed some points, and I think from our perspective, we've got a really good goalkeeper in Ryan Fulton.
Yeah.
So you're guaranteed clean sheets with Ryan. The players that we retained last year, we've got some good players who we know will contribute well to the success of the team. And then the additions that I've been working on, I mean, we've got signings already committed, and the quality of player that we're looking for is a championship quality of player. How consistent we can be with bringing that in, only time will tell, you know. But it's a full rebuild, and it's a full rebuild that I think if you, to give you an example, like a jigsaw puzzle, you don't know what, maybe if there's bits missing, it's kind of hard to finish the puzzle. If you set up your plan for the outset and you bring players in to fit how you want it to work, you've got a better chance of success. So although it's been a sore one dropping to League One, and although it's something that, you know, certainly from a competitive perspective and for mine, and this isn't about me and my CV, but I would never have wanted to have been associated with relegation in any CV, because that's deemed as a failure.
Yeah.
The only positive, and I always try and look at the positives, are how quickly can we get ourselves out of the position and how well can we do it. And what I mean with that is, can we do it by playing really good attacking, aggressive, nice football that will get the fans enjoying their experience at the club, and can we do it at a canter in terms of, you know, you always find there's like one or two teams run away with something, right, and they're great to watch, and it's like, wow, they're bang on point. And
you go there, you know you're going to see goals, you're going to see football.
And you know, I mean, it's like if you use Rangers during the 1 in a row season, they battered everybody. I think they get through the league unbeaten. Right, and they're beating teams 6-7-0, right, and it was just they're flying. Celtic under Postecoglou, flying, and you knew that's going to be a place to go. Hamilton Accies have always been a place that nobody's wanted to go, and I think that identity was maybe lost over the past couple of years for whatever reason. If we can get that identity back, but add some flair to it and creativity and get everybody behind us, then...
And you think as well, perhaps then, whereas you say the relegation's not what you want to be part of your CV, you know, nobody in football wants to be part of that, but if you rebuild right, then that could be the propeller to then push up.
Aye, well that's the plan, I think. When you're in the Championship, the only place to go is the Premier League.
Aye.
Right, so that's like, you know, we don't want to get to the Championship to stay there.
Aye.
You know, and we certainly don't want to get to the Championship to have to visit League One again.
Aye.
Right, but first we need to get to the Championship. And I guess when you look at the calibre of player that we're trying to identify, and the budget unfortunately drives a lot of that, you know, so we don't have infinite pots of cash that we can go and spend £2 or £3 grand on a player. I mean, you're looking at, you know, £400, £500 a week, you know, and we're still full-time status. That's a lot of money for this club. You know, if you're like £400 or £500 a week, I get more doing this podcast, right? but the reality is that's, we've got, I mean, I think last year we had 315 season ticket sales, generated £71,000 in revenue. So if you look at the average salary of a player, say it's at our level, say we're about 25, 30, 40 grand, that's pretty much 2 players, you know, or 1 3/4 players, right? So you've got a squad of 18 to find, you've got a youth academy to find, you've got the lights to keep on, you've got coaching staff, medical staff, match day stuff. It's a crazy sum of cash that you need to find to keep the club afloat, and at the same time put something in the park that's going to make sure you survive. So by comparative budget terms, if you stripped everything out of the equation and you based it on fan base, that's why I use Livingston as the example at the start. Livingston, without the financial backing they've got and the fan base that they've got, might not be in the Premier League. Unfortunately, we're the same, and it's how do we get the seats filled? We've got a 6,000-7,000 seater stadium. How do we try and get 6,000 or 7,000 people in when we've never had it before?
Yeah.
Do you know, and that's a kind of challenge, and we just need to cast the net far and wide. We need to do a lot more from an engagement perspective and a PR perspective to go and get the local catchment area involved. If you look at the charity stuff the club does, the stands in the stadium are full, but these guys don't come to games.
Aye.
So how do we get them to come to games, and how do we get them, you know, because we are a community club, in its most literal sense. Everything we do, I mean, I can take you around and show you. We've got gardens out there for kids with autism and sensory. We've got a cinema upstairs for kids. We've got adult support networks. You know, there's Addiction Anonymous thing. There's so much going on. So it's a very, very community-focused organisation. And again, that ticked a box for me, because the social conscience of the place is what makes people want to invest. You know, I think last year I brought in 3 or 4 big investors who are new money to the club. They didn't involve because of Hamilton fans. They involved themselves because the social conscience of the club and what it does in the community actually ticked their CSR boxes. You know, CSR's corporate social responsibility. Yep. As big employers and as big brands in UK industry, that's a box that they need to tick, and this club fits that box perfectly for them. The guys that have signed up are fans of Celtic, Rangers and Hearts, you know, but they're happy to give Accies their money, and if we can generate revenue streams from there and we can organically grow the fan base by whatever means we can, then we'll do all right. But we are missing a generation, I think, through the Nomad years. You know, through Novena Stadium, it was Bill Sainsbury's used to be our stadium, and we're here. Like at Olympic, we've lost a generation of fans who identified with the club as it was, and then a new generation of fans have known nothing but success the last 20 years.
Aye. Because
we're a Premier League team. Do you know, but if you look at the charts for 1874, I think historically we're 17th in Scottish football. That's our average position, which unfortunately makes us a championship team, unless you go for an 18-team league, you know, which a lot of directors don't want. No ours, but no directors of Premier League clubs who are big ticket. They don't want a change of structure.
And you think as well, but that's the thing. Like when you look at Scottish football, out with the SPL, the coverage across the rest of the board is pretty poor.
That's murder. Aye, I think it's terrible. I never grew up supporting Hamilton. You know, I played against them as a kid. I hated it because they're always up for it. You know, and I hated. Oh, part of me loved it. You know, because I loved the fight. You know, I loved that. You know, I'm going to come out on top here. You know, but I hated the fact that they had 11 players like that and we'd play. And that's just an education, and it's an identity that they've carried. You know, certainly through my lifetime, they've always this identity. I've never given up, caring, fighting, being passionate. And that we need to get that back.
I mean, that's the thing. I know, like for us in like kind of Scotland and that, any kind of lower league games you see are occasionally in BBC Alba.
Aye.
But I think to myself, it's torture watching that and listening to languages that I don't get, and I don't find it as publicised though. You know, it's like occasionally I'll flick through and realise, that game's in BBC Alba.
Aye. But I think, going back to the point you made, that I never actually quite finished on it, was very valid. That's part of the reason that we struggle commercially as a club, because, as I said, I never grew up supporting Accies, but I hated playing against them. When you look at what they're surrounded by, Motherwell, Celtic, Rangers, Partick Thistle, they've got a fan base that we don't have. They also get an exposure that we don't get for whatever reason. And I find it quite unfair. But we need to find a way of using that as a vehicle to promote ourselves.
Yep.
Radio Clyde should cover us more, I think. You know, but I had that discussion with Hugh Keevans and what's the guy's name? Gordon Duncan, is it, or something? Can't remember the guy's name. Who hosts the phone in.
It's absolutely
brilliant.
Me now.
He's brilliant.
I can recognise his voice.
Aye, he's absolutely a Millwall fan, but he's absolutely brilliant because he is open, he is fresh-minded, he's open to right. But Hugh Keevans' point on it was, well, nobody really cares about Accies. You know, nobody's going to care if you adopt that attitude and you don't promote it.
Yeah.
You know, and then when you go back to the Accies of old, people that run through brick walls. I remember coming here watching games, maybe St Mirren played against them, and they battered St Mirren off the park, you know, in every sense possible. That's people who care, people who've got a passion. They don't deserve to be ignored. But it's obviously commercial. It's that if you look at Celtic and Rangers, the bit that really annoys me is that I never focused on Accies at all, or any smaller club, right? And it's not until you're in it you actually start to resent because pure demographic. If you look at the amount of people in Scotland that follow football, and you take those two out of the equation, there's more people support other clubs than there is support they do.
Yep.
Right. So why does the media and the masses not promote to the majority? I just don't get it. I know there's obviously people need to get click, people need to get media sales and stuff, and they too carry more clout. But you think that the majority would has to be
carry?
Aye, because being down south, I don't think. I think the coverage at Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal, Man City, the coverage they get seems to be quite fair.
Yeah. And I think, and you look at it down south, and you do kind of think it in the way that you're looking at it, and it is a lot more across the board.
Aye. Whereas
here, as you know, now the first question a lot of people generally ask Scottish is, who do you support?
Oh, it was Hamilton Accies. You know, that's a straightforward question, you know, but you're right enough. That is true.
And I know for yourself, obviously, you says that you initially came into the club with a view purchasing.
Aye, that was last year. Yeah.
And then was it the kind of pulling factor on it being Hamilton out with anybody else? Was it the community aspect of the club?
That was solely it, to be honest. My own business. I've had my own business for about 10 years, and how it all came about was we do a lot of charity work. And when I say charity work, I mean charity is not for PR purposes. It's a genuine giving. But we were offered some sort of thing for the royal family. It was the Queen or whatever it was. Something in Parliament. There's a motion went through Parliament for us to acknowledge what the amount of money we'd raised or whatever it was. And then the Deputy Lord Lieutenant for the Queen, John Brown, who's the director here, had come to see me in the office. He invited me to the garden party and stuff and bits. I couldn't go to the first one. But that wasn't really my thing. You know, I wasn't doing what I do through my company to get a tap in the back for anybody.
Yep.
You know, or to get a well done, because it doesn't really matter. Do you know, the people that my company's helped through being a company, I don't know who they are. Do you know, I don't know the kids and the adults and the elderly people that we've supported, and I don't need to know. All I need to know is that there's good came from what we're doing. So that's been inherent for me since I've been a kid. You know, it's kind of how I've been brought up, was to try and look after folk, always be honest. You know, look, certainly where you can, always be honest, and to help others if you can. And what I realised maybe about 15 years ago, before I set my company up, was that if you've got a company that's a good brand and it's got a good presence, you can do a lot more good through that brand than you can as an individual.
Yep.
Right, so Gerry Strain trying to raise 100 grand for cancer research or for Down syndrome or something, it's not really a big chance of hitting that 100 grand levy unless I market it and people market it for me. But a company doing it through other companies, through the exposure, through the brand awareness, 100 grand's pretty straightforward to raise.
Yep.
So it's the power of having a good brand. And that's obviously what got me on John's radar. John then brought me into the club. The owner of the club, Colin McGowan, I'd never met in my life. What a charismatic guy. And then you see what he does and you see the hours he puts in and why he puts it in. It's like, wow, I resonated with that because I do it myself, but to a different level. But then, unbeknown to me, there's a disconnect between Colin and the fans, or the fans and Colin, that I wasn't aware of. You know, so right away you come in, you're guilty by association, but I'm quite happy to be associated with the guy because he's kept the lights on here for 20 years. Aye. You know, and when you look at the community stuff that it does, he's the guy that's been behind that. And the numbers I gave you earlier about what we bring in relative to what it costs, there's largely been one person keeping the club afloat for all that time. So that to me deserves a bit of praise. But I'm not looking at it through an emotional angle. I'm just looking at it for, wow, that's impressive. How do you do that?
Aye.
And he's now in the process of selling the club to new owners. I couldn't speak for the new owners in terms of what their social values are. But I know he's a right good guy. I know he cares about the club immensely, and he has done for 15 years. But I don't think he's maybe. He's certainly no Colin. I don't think anybody's calling Colin's unique, you know. But equally, I think that he probably admires what he's done and how he's done it.
So with the new owners coming in, are you seeing the kind of vision being the same as it is the now?
That's a good question. I think that the vision of the new owners is one of ambition and one of success and one of pride. Do you know, he's a really proud. He's a really proud, honest, humble guy, who's genuine and who cares about people. But he's ambitious and he's successful in his own right.
Yeah.
So I think those attributes with that view. You know, I think we're on the same page in terms of. You know, I've said openly that I wanted top 6. I thought we'd get that. Talk about making
Forgetting
mistakes.
it wasn't Football Manager you were sitting playing.
Exactly. But I thought last July we'll get promoted this year, and, right, but naive as hell, just no understanding what I was part of, and no understanding the complexities of it and where it actually was. So I probably had a romantic view of it.
Yeah.
And it was humbling. See, when you get a wake up, like, honestly, you wake up and you go, wow.
So what must be humbling for the fans as well, though, is when you kind of look about, and even football across the globe, you tend to get, you know, the people that sit up in the board, and they've obviously got their eyes on it, and their eyes are different from a fan's eyes.
Yeah.
But if you're talking to yourself, you're very much down at where the fans are and viewing what the fans are viewing.
I would agree with that. I don't know if the fans would. I mean, myself and the fans had some challenges just round about December, January time. And I completely accept where they were coming from, because it wasn't nice to watch. They're watching their club apparently in free fall, and their fear was relegation. A number of us were powerless to do anything, and particularly until January, you can't do anything until the window opens to bring more players in.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're sitting watching that as a fan, and you think nothing's going to change, nothing can change. The clamour for the fans naturally was sack the manager, he's rubbish. But then you look deeper into it and, well, what kind of players does the manager have? What players did he want? None of this was kind of. It's like just now I've tried to sign 10 or 12 players and there's 5 or 6 said no. I don't know what 10 or 12 we tried to sign last year.
Aye.
Because I wasn't involved in it. But I can imagine that if you'd asked the chairman and the manager the very first game of the season, have you got the pool of players that you want and that you set out to get? The answer might have been no. Right? So the problem you've then got is when you get the fans who want the manager sacked, it's like, who's going to come in and get a better tune out of the same instruments that you've got, and you've got injuries piling up and you get bad luck, and it was just horrible. So, but the fans don't want to hear a director telling them that.
Aye.
But the problem I've got is that was the truth. Do you know, it was I had to tell them what I seen. Do you know, and it's not going to change. We can't bring in players until January. Please just try and stick with us, and let's. I had the rosary beads out playing to God that we were going to still be hanging in it, you know, because there's a danger that we were so far adrift that we were relegated by January. That was realistic. So the fact that we managed to get a point here and there, and it was just brutal to watch, and it wasn't nice to be part of. The fact that we managed just to chip and chip and chip told me that the manager and the players had a bit of character about them, and they just needed that helping hand. We then bring in Dylan McGowan, Connor Smith, Tom Sparrow, Dylan Stevenson, Benny Ashley Seal scored an important goal but then got injured again. But we brought in players to add to what we already had, and then you did see a change, and then it all went Pete Tong again, kind of come March, April, and there's probably things that the manager needs to learn from. If you ask him, he'll probably tell you where he went right, where he went wrong. I can't speak for him. But getting back to a bit about the fans, it's like all I can do is be honest with them. I can't tell any lies, and that saying my nana used to have was, the truth will always be the truth. A lie can only be a lie once.
Aye.
Right? See, the minute you've told it, you're screwed, because A, you need to remember it, B, you need to remember who you told it to, and C, you need to hope that it doesn't come out.
Aye.
Right? So I'm not going to put myself in that position with anybody. So I do watch it as a fan. I do understand it as a fan, and I do feel it as a fan. That's actually a feeling on my part. That's a feeling on my part. Because that emotional attachment I've got, I need to try and remove it, and look at it more logically. You know, because it's you can't talk to fans as a fan.
Aye.
When you're a director, and that's a mistake I made. Do you know, it was a sore one.
Because it's easy for fans to sit down in the pub talking to one another saying that's garbage, but when you've got a director and you're talking to the director, you're expecting completely different responses because of the position you're in.
I think my fault was I never ever said it was garbage. You know, I tried to bridge a gap between appreciating what I was watching and what they're watching, and trying to keep people inside. Right, so it's a no-win battle. Right, but do you know what? I thought I'll get a bash because I quite enjoy a challenge, but I made an arse of it, you know, in a couple of respects, and I made an arse of it because I was honest. And then the biggest mistake I made was because we didn't have the structures in place to bring things to the fans as regularly as they wanted. I was working it was on a Facebook platform. We set up a Facebook profile and I'd address the fans by video, like once a week. They would ask questions, I'd get them real answers. And a couple of things happened in December time. We promoted tickets for a game between Rangers and Celtic B, and the fans turned in it right away. I can understand why, because it's like two biggest contributors to us losing fans and we promoting tickets. But the flip side of that is that we're a football club. We've got a duty to promote football.
Yep.
Irrespective as to what football is, if it's kids football or adults. I think the problem there was that we were in free fall. Football was terrible. There was no good news coming into place. We didn't know who we were signing in January. We were off the pace, and then boom, Celtic Rangers tickets go out, and it's like off. So I was in the middle of that storm, and the mistake I made was I started to engage with the fans one-on-one, and it goes back to again, you know, naivety on my part. But I think the teachings of I keep talking to my nana because she was important to me, but her thing was always treat people as they treat you, speak to people as they speak to you. You can't do that in football.
Aye.
You can't even do it in business, to be fair. And the trap I fell into was, if you're going to talk to me like that, I'll just talk back to you in the same tone, and that just didn't help me any. So that was a mistake I made, and if that's one I could change, I'd change that. But I was only being honest. So that is what it is, you know.
So when you look at the kind of division you're in now, so I know your goal win the league. So I'm pretty sure if I say to you who's going to win League One, you're going to be Hamilton.
Well, I tell you what, see if we don't. If we don't, and it's put out there that I was helping the manager play recruitment. I think I need to leave with the manager. So, and that's I'm not beating about the bush here, to be fair. With the quality of players we're trying to attract, with the quality of players that we have attracted, and assuming that the transition from one owner to the other goes through successfully, and we get all the jigsaw in place, we're just looking to make our fans proud of what we are. And by that I mean we've got this to try and retain, which isn't easy. You look at the clubs that's won it.
Aye.
So we've got that to try and retain. We want to try and get a good run in the Viaplay, which is something we've not done for a long while. The league's a priority to get automatic promotion through winning the League One title. In the Scottish Cup, if John might not be happy about this, John Rankin, he's not here obviously, but if he done last 16 last year, he needs to do last 16 this year, because that's the bar.
Yep. He set it there.
He set that, and he's a competitive guy. Aye, so how do you better last 16? Well, get last 16 and pull a plum tie against, you know, Hearts at Tynecastle instead of here. You get a bigger gate money, or Rangers or Celtic, or you get to the semis. God love us, we get to the final. Do you know? Like, but that bar's been set, so why can you not do it again? The bits that we need to tick the box are, I would say, would be, and this isn't something that as a board of directors we've discussed, or the targets have been set yet, because we can't, because it's still in transition.
Yep.
But my own personal take on it as well, we need to get a run in Viaplay. We need to try and get to the latter stages, or try and get to Hampden. We need to win the league, and we need to do it in style. And then the Scottish Cup, we need to get a run, and we need to keep this here because we've got it already. So,
and would you say that youth is going to play a big part?
I think it has too, but to what degree, again, I don't know, and that's where I'm not qualified to talk about how we play as a team, because that's not my job, you know. But I've got an opinion on it like every other fan.
Aye.
You know, and the romantic side of me is like, can you do like a Celtic for 67? We bringing in all local boys that's going to carry you to success, or Rangers for 72. You know, Aberdeen, Dundee United for the 80s. Can you do that? I don't see why you can't. I mean, our under 18s this year, please God, will be competing in the Champions League. We won the youth league, but we won it with a good bit to spare, to be fair. beating the likes of Celtic, Rangers, Motherwell.
Well, that was the reason I brought it up, because I checked, and also the youth Hamilton I've got is...
That's down to George Cairns. He's in charge of the youth setup, and if you look at George's performance, right, here's a stat for you. George is potentially taking Hamilton Academical youth setup into the Champions League twice in 5 years. Right? Where else in Britain is that possible? When you look at the anomaly in budgets, and you look at the anomaly in demographic, you know, everybody wants to play a Man City, a Liverpool, a Celtic, a Rangers, right? But George has done it through setting a standard, setting a discipline, and allowing people to progress. You know, so his way of working, it's for George to talk about how he works, but when I look at how he works, he's got a plan and a vision that's 2 years ahead of where we are. That seems to be the magic for me, is because I sit and listen. You learn more if you sit and listen to the guys that do it well.
Yeah.
And you learn, and it's like, wow, he's not planning for now, he's planning for a couple of years ahead, but he's all in, and his kids trust him. But my challenge with Scottish football is the transition from 18 to first team. I can't think, and it's always been poor. I mean, Rangers went through a spell of bringing through some tremendous players. Celtic did it, Aberdeen did it, Dundee United were phenomenal for a while. So were Hibs.
I think Dundee United, I remember kind of growing up being massive.
Oh, huge. Stevie Campbell done a tremendous job there with Gordon Grady bringing the kids in, and you know, Dundee United were phenomenal with that. St Johnstone, to be fair, they were decent as well, but you could argue that Celtic Rangers don't bring enough through, but that's because the demands on them, you know, to...
The demand becomes performance and results based.
Aye.
And they don't want to rely on...
Don't want to line kids, but they should be able to.
Aye.
You know, and we tried it last year and it never quite worked. But what you're doing is you're taking a 16 or 17-year-old kid and you're putting him in a league with a guy that's dropped for the SPL. It's kind of like when I was a kid growing up, junior players used to be ex-pros.
Yep.
Right? And then as a 16-year-old, you come up against a junior player, he dunted you in the calf. Right? And then you wondered how you could run for 20 minutes.
Aye.
Because he knew what he was doing. And that, I think that at times last year, certainly the game I was watching, I might be totally wrong, but it looked to me as though some of the senior guys knew how to play against the kids and knew how to put the kids out of games. And
it's that kind of experience that they've got, and I suppose at club level it's finding the balance of youth and experience and getting that just kind of right.
Aye.
And I suppose if you nail that, you're pretty much secure.
You can, but more often than not it's done with having a successful team, and if you've got a first team that's performing, you can bring the kids in and the senior pros can talk them through games, you know, tell them what to do, what not to do, tell them where to run, where not to run, tell them what passes to play and what not to play, and then that kid becomes a confident kid who was already confident coming in, and then they go, first team player, and you know, but they learn as they're confident instead of being afraid to take the ball, because if I make a mistake here, it's 3 points, and then 3 points is another place down the league, and you know, fans might turn against me, my coaches might turn against me. I don't want to make that mistake.
And I think that's kind of a big thing at this level as well, is when you look at, you know, and I use them kind of briefly about the likes of Rangers, Celtic stuff, when you're on that park, you're playing, everything round about you is just noise, whereas at these levels, you hear every shout that comes out.
Aye, do you know, there's a few stories there, but we'll leave them, but you hear everything. But it's funny actually, right, you adopt, did you ever play football? Did you?
I played.
Right, so I remember any time I was ever, you know, I wasn't blessed to have a career at professional football, but any time I played in front of crowds, you never heard the crowd, even with a small crowd, because I wasn't good enough to hear the crowd. I had to be so focused in trying to play football or trying to, right? So you do figure out how to block it out, and then you know, I think what happened last year was, you know, particularly in here, some of the feedback for the players was they heard everything. Now they obviously weren't blocking out some of the stuff they couldn't block out. The fans have vented frustration, quite rightly so, because again, as I said, to them we seem in free fall. You sit in the director's box, I started to hear everything, you know, but now I don't.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, do you know, it is what it is. It's just, I'm looking there, and you find a way of just blocking it off. You have to as well.
I think it's the same with everything. You could be playing great football, winning, but there's going to be that one element of negativity along the line somewhere.
Aye, but I think you need to, see it with fair and balanced in it, and this isn't excusing negativity, and it's not excusing aggression or bad behaviour. You need to look at the reasons for it, right? And then the question you then need to ask is there any justification for somebody having that emotion? Yes or no? It doesn't matter if the behaviour's right or wrong.
Yeah.
But is there a justification for that emotion existing? And see, to be fair, I think that aye, you know, like, if you support a team and the team's the bottom of the league, you've got a right to be pissed off. You know, you've got every right to be aggrieved and upset and hurt. And irrespective as to how much you contribute or don't, you've got every right to ask a question. You know, and that's maybe the bit that the kind of journey that everyone's on. It needs to be more cohesive.
Definitely. I mean, look, Gerry, just kind of to I appreciate your time today. I appreciate everything that you've kind of went through. So just to get to the kind of side that wrapping it up now, suppose I'll leave with the kind of question. So we've got Hamilton for League One.
Right.
Who are you fancying for League Two and who are you fancying for the Championship? If you're just to pick one that you go, that's a team to watch, or I reckon they'll do well.
The League Two one's a challenge because it's an even faster moving environment than ours.
Yeah.
To be fair, there might well be a surprise in League Two. I think more often than not there is. I need to go for us, you know, for League One. That's irrespective of the fact that Falkirk will probably spend a lot of money in Soul Cove and Queenie South will be up there. I think, but I need to back our own because you know we're on together. Championship, oh wow, what a question. I think I'd say it's between Raith Rovers and Dundee United. I thought Raith were going to win it last year.
See, I'd fancied Raith last year and was surprised.
I thought they were going to win it, but they seemed to get their job done before Christmas to make sure they were safe.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Steve McDonald up there and their directors are different class. And they've also brought in John Potter and Andy Barrowman and so on, so they'll kick on.
So we'll come back at the end of the season and see how the predictions were.
You're more than welcome, mate. You're more than welcome.
But look, Gerry, I really appreciate you taking time out, especially when I know how hectic it is. Not just doing what you're doing in regards to Hamilton, but also having your own businesses as well.
No bother at all.
And taking this time today to spend on this is massively appreciated. Look, all the best throughout the season, and I'll be looking forward to watching you lift the trophy.
Well, you need to come to a game.
100%. I'm all in.
Aye.
For doing that.
You need to come and join us for a couple of games. You're more welcome.
Definitely. Look, Gerry, thanks for your time today.
No
really
problem.
Appreciate it, and hopefully chat to you soon.
Take care, all the best.
Cheers.
Good luck.
Thank
Cheers.
you.